Havana syndrome. In 2016, U.S. Embassy staff in Havana, Cuba began experiencing a mysterious illness characterized by sudden hearing loss, severe headaches, and cognitive impairment that appeared to be caused by directed energy weapons targeting specific individuals. The condition affects only certain people in precise locations, suggesting it's an artificially induced illness rather than a natural disease. The first cases were reported by CIA officers and diplomatic personnel who described hearing strange sounds before experiencing immediate onset of severe neurological symptoms. The attacks occurred in specific rooms of the embassy and affected only personnel with high-level security clearances, indicating targeted selection rather than random exposure. Medical examination revealed brain injuries consistent with directed microwave energy exposure, but the damage patterns were unlike anything seen in natural illness or conventional weapons. The neurological effects included areas of the brain that control balance, hearing, and cognitive function, suggesting precision targeting of specific neural systems. Dr. Douglas Smith at the University of Pennsylvania, who examined affected personnel, found evidence of brain damage that resembled concussion injuries but without any physical trauma. The pattern of neural damage suggested exposure to focused electromagnetic energy that could penetrate buildings and target individuals without affecting nearby people. Most disturbing was the discovery that Havana syndrome cases began appearing worldwide among intelligence personnel, diplomats, and military officers working on classified projects. The geographic spread and victim selection patterns indicated a systematic targeting campaign using advanced directed energy technology. The symptoms include severe headaches, hearing loss, cognitive impairment, and balance problems that persist for months or years after exposure. Many victims report hearing strange sounds or feeling pressure waves immediately before the onset of symptoms, suggesting the use of sonic or electromagnetic weapons that operate outside normal hearing ranges. When medical researchers attempted to study Havana syndrome systematically, government agencies classified much of the research and restricted access to affected personnel. The CIA and State Department limited medical examinations and prohibited publication of findings that might reveal the technical capabilities of the weapons being used. Independent neurologists who examined Havana syndrome victims found evidence of targeted brain damage that couldn't be explained by natural causes or conventional medical conditions. The precision of the neural damage and the selective targeting of specific brain regions suggested the use of advanced medical knowledge to maximize neurological impairment. The attacks demonstrate impossible accuracy in targeting specific individuals within buildings full of people, suggesting surveillance technology that can identify targets and deliver directed energy with surgical precision. The capability to cause brain damage through walls while leaving nearby people unaffected requires technology that exceeds publicly known military capabilities. Government investigations into Havana syndrome have been deliberately inconclusive, with agencies claiming no evidence of foreign involvement, while simultaneously treating victims with injuries that could only result from advanced weapons attacks. The contradiction suggests deliberate suppression of evidence about sophisticated directed energy weapons being used against American personnel. Morgellons disease. Since 2002, thousands of people have developed Morgellons disease, a condition characterized by strange fibers growing from skin lesions, crawling sensations, and cognitive symptoms that medical institutions dismiss as delusional parasitosis, despite physical evidence of artificial filaments that don't match any known biological or synthetic materials. Patients report colored fibers emerging from skin lesions that burn at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees, resist chemical solvents, and contain complex internal structures that appear artificial. Laboratory analysis reveals that the fibers contain materials that don't exist in nature and incorporate nanotechnology elements that suggest sophisticated engineering. The fibers demonstrate properties that violate conventional materials science, including self-assembly, apparent responsiveness to electromagnetic fields, and the ability to reproduce within human tissue. The structures appear to be synthetic organisms designed to interface with human biology through unknown biotechnology. Dr. Randy Wymore at Oklahoma State University conducted extensive analysis of Morgellons fibers and found they contained materials that didn't match any known synthetic or natural substances. The fibers incorporated unusual polymers, metallic elements, and organic compounds that suggested advanced materials engineering beyond current technological capabilities. Geographic clustering of Morgellons cases shows patterns that correlate with electromagnetic infrastructure, chemical exposure, and specific demographic groups. The distribution suggests environmental triggers or targeted deployment rather than natural disease transmission or psychological contagion. Most significantly, Morgellons patients often report exposure to unusual circumstances before symptom onset, including proximity to cell towers, participation in medical studies, or residence in areas with known environmental contamination. The trigger events suggest artificial causation rather than random disease development. The medical establishment's dismissal of Morgellons as psychological disorder contradicts extensive laboratory evidence of physical fibers and materials that can't be explained by mental illness. The systematic denial of physical evidence suggests coordinated suppression of information about advanced nanotechnology being tested on human subjects. Patients who attempt to document their condition face medical gaslighting, psychiatric commitment, and social ostracism that prevents effective communication about the disease. The systematic silencing of Morgellons patients follows patterns used to suppress evidence of human experimentation and weapons testing. Recent analysis has revealed that Morgellons fibers contain genetic material from multiple organisms, including bacteria, fungi, and plants that have been artificially combined using genetic engineering techniques. The biological complexity suggests laboratory creation rather than natural evolution or environmental contamination. The consistency of Morgellons symptoms across geographically isolated populations and the uniformity of fiber characteristics suggest a common source or deployment method. The disease appears to be a test of nanotechnology-based biological weapons that can be delivered through environmental exposure or direct targeting. Social media-induced illness. Starting in 2019, young people exposed to specific social media content began developing sudden-onset neurological symptoms, including tics, seizures, and behavioral changes that spread through online communities faster than any known infectious disease. The condition demonstrates that digital media can trigger physical illness through mechanisms that exceed current understanding of psychosomatic medicine. The illness primarily affects teenage girls who consume particular types of social media content, with symptoms appearing within hours or days of exposure to specific videos, challenges, or online communities. The rapid onset and demographic specificity suggest artificial triggering rather than natural psychological contagion. Medical analysis reveals that affected individuals develop genuine neurological symptoms, including involuntary motor movements, speech impediments, and cognitive changes that persist for months. The symptoms are not psychological manifestations, but represent actual neurological dysfunction triggered by digital media exposure. Dr. Caroline Olvera at Rush University Medical Center documented cases where teenagers developed identical tic patterns and vocal behaviors after viewing specific social media content. The uniformity of symptoms across geographically isolated populations indicates artificial programming rather than social learning or imitation. The triggering content includes specific visual patterns, audio frequencies, and symbolic elements that appear designed to induce neurological responses. Analysis of the most effective triggering videos reveals hidden elements including subliminal imagery, embedded audio frequencies, and visual patterns that correlate with brain entrainment techniques. Most disturbing is the discovery that the triggering content is being systematically amplified by social media algorithms that ensure maximum exposure to vulnerable populations. The algorithmic promotion suggests coordinated deployment of neurological weapons through commercial social media platforms. The illness demonstrates that human consciousness can be manipulated through digital media in ways that produce physical neurological damage. The capability to trigger genuine medical conditions through online content represents a new category of weapons that can be deployed through routine internet usage, government health agencies have downplayed the connection between social media content and neurological symptoms, attributing the illness to pandemic stress, despite clear evidence that specific digital content triggers the condition. The dismissal suggests awareness of the artificial nature of the triggering mechanisms. The rapid global spread of social media-induced illness and its resistance to conventional treatment indicate that human neurological systems are vulnerable to digital manipulation through unknown mechanisms. The condition suggests that internet content can be weaponized to cause physical harm through direct neural interface. Research into digital neurological manipulation has been classified by defense agencies that recognize the military applications of media-induced illness. The suppression of research into digital weapons suggests that social media platforms are being used to test neurological manipulation techniques on civilian populations. Electronic hypersensitivity syndrome. Since the widespread deployment of 5G networks in 2020, thousands of people have developed electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome, experiencing severe symptoms when exposed to wireless technology that suggest artificial sensitivity rather than natural electromagnetic intolerance. The condition appears designed to create technology-dependent illness that forces behavioral modification. Affected individuals report immediate onset of headaches, nausea, cognitive impairment, and skin burning when exposed to specific electromagnetic frequencies. The symptoms occur only with certain technologies and frequencies, indicating artificial sensitivity programming rather than general electromagnetic intolerance. Medical testing reveals that electromagnetic hypersensitivity patients show measurable physiological responses to wireless signals, including changes in heart rate, blood pressure, and brain activity. The responses are immediate and reproducible, proving the condition involves genuine physical reactions rather than psychological effects. Dr. Magda Havas at Trent University documented cases where electromagnetic hypersensitivity patients could identify the presence of wireless devices while blindfolded, suggesting enhanced electromagnetic sensitivity that exceeds normal human capabilities. The enhanced detection abilities indicate artificial augmentation of electromagnetic perception. The geographic distribution of electromagnetic hypersensitivity cases correlates precisely with 5G network deployment, smart meter installation, and other wireless infrastructure expansion. The correlation suggests that specific technologies trigger the condition through unknown mechanisms rather than general electromagnetic exposure. Most significantly, electromagnetic hypersensitivity patients report that their symptoms began after specific events, including vaccination, medical procedures, or proximity to new wireless installations. The trigger events suggest artificial induction of electromagnetic sensitivity through medical or technological intervention. The condition creates technology avoidance behaviors that force affected individuals to modify their lifestyle, employment, and social interactions to avoid wireless technology. The behavioral modification effects suggest that electromagnetic hypersensitivity serves as a control mechanism rather than accidental illness. Government agencies and telecommunications companies deny the existence of electromagnetic hypersensitivity, despite extensive documentation of physical symptoms and physiological responses. The denial suggests awareness that wireless technology is being used to induce artificial illness for population control purposes. Research into electromagnetic hypersensitivity has been suppressed through funding restrictions and academic pressure that prevents investigation of the connection between wireless technology and induced illness. The suppression indicates that electromagnetic sensitivity represents a known effect of wireless weapons deployment. The precision with which electromagnetic hypersensitivity targets specific individuals while leaving others unaffected suggests the use of personalized frequency targeting that requires detailed biological monitoring and customized electromagnetic exposure. The selective targeting indicates sophisticated bioweapons technology disguised as commercial telecommunications infrastructure. Rapid aging disease. In 2021, medical professionals began documenting cases of rapid aging syndrome where previously healthy individuals aged decades within months, developing advanced signs of cellular deterioration, organ failure, and cognitive decline that suggest artificial acceleration of natural aging processes through unknown biological weapons. Patients with rapid aging syndrome develop wrinkles, gray hair, muscle weakness, and organ dysfunction at rates that exceed natural aging by factors of 50 to 100 times normal. The acceleration affects all body systems simultaneously, indicating artificial manipulation of fundamental cellular processes rather than specific organ diseases. Medical analysis reveals that rapid aging patients show cellular damage patterns that match radiation exposure, chemical poisoning, and genetic manipulation simultaneously. The multi-system damage suggests exposure to combined biological weapons that target multiple aging mechanisms to maximize deterioration rates. Dr. Robert Chen at Stanford Medical Center documented cases where rapid aging patients aged 20 to 30 years within 6 to 12 months, developing conditions that normally take decades to manifest. The acceleration rate and uniform progression indicate artificial induction rather than genetic disorders or environmental exposure. The condition primarily affects individuals who have participated in medical studies, received specific treatments, or lived in areas with unusual environmental conditions. The targeting suggests that rapid aging syndrome results from human experimentation or weapons testing rather than natural disease processes. Most disturbing is the discovery that rapid aging syndrome patients show evidence of genetic modification and cellular reprogramming that accelerates telomere shortening, mitochondrial damage, and protein degradation. The cellular changes suggest sophisticated biotechnology that can artificially accelerate aging through genetic manipulation. The geographic clustering of rapid aging cases correlates with pharmaceutical research facilities, military installations, and areas with known biological weapons development. The distribution indicates systematic testing of aging acceleration technology on selected populations. Government health agencies have classified rapid aging syndrome research and prohibited publication of studies that might reveal the artificial nature of the condition. The suppression suggests that rapid aging represents a known effect of biological weapons being tested for military or population control applications. The precision with which rapid aging syndrome targets specific individuals and the uniformity of progression rates indicate sophisticated biological weapons that can artificially manipulate human aging processes. The technology represents a new category of bioweapons that can cause death through accelerated natural processes. Medical professionals who attempt to study rapid aging syndrome face career destruction and legal threats that prevent investigation of the artificial aging mechanisms. The systematic silencing suggests coordinated suppression of evidence about biological weapons that can cause rapid death through artificial aging acceleration. Digital addiction disorder. Since 2018, neurologists have documented cases of digital addiction disorder, where individuals develop compulsive technology use that creates physical brain changes, withdrawal symptoms, and behavioral modification that exceeds normal addiction mechanisms and suggests artificial neural programming through digital interfaces. Patients with digital addiction disorder show brain scans that reveal structural changes in areas controlling impulse, attention, and reward processing. The neurological modifications occur much faster than natural addiction development and create dependency patterns that resist conventional addiction treatment. Medical analysis reveals that digital addiction patients develop tolerance, withdrawal, and craving cycles that match pharmaceutical dependency, but are triggered by specific digital content, applications, or online activities. The precision of the addiction programming suggests artificial neural manipulation rather than natural reward system hijacking. Dr. Anna Lemke at Stanford Addiction Medicine documented cases where digital addiction disorder patients showed immediate neurological responses to specific digital stimuli that activated reward pathways with pharmaceutical precision. The responses indicate that digital content incorporates elements designed to trigger specific neural pathways. The condition affects individuals who use particular applications, view specific content types, or engage with certain online platforms. The selective targeting suggests that digital addiction disorder results from intentional neural programming embedded in commercial technology rather than accidental overuse. Most significantly, digital addiction disorder patients report that their compulsive technology use began after exposure to updated applications, new platforms, or specific digital events. The trigger events suggest that addiction programming is being deliberately introduced through software updates and new technology deployment. The behavioral modification effects of digital addiction disorder include changes in social interaction, political beliefs, and consumer behavior that serve specific corporate and political interests. The modification patterns suggest that digital addiction is being used as a mechanism for population control and behavioral engineering. Government agencies and technology companies deny that digital platforms are designed to create addiction, despite internal company documents revealing deliberate use of addiction psychology in application design. The denial suggests awareness that digital addiction represents intentional neural manipulation rather than accidental overuse. Research into digital addiction mechanisms has been suppressed through corporate pressure and funding restrictions that prevent investigation of intentional addiction programming in commercial technology. The suppression indicates that digital addiction represents a known effect of neural manipulation technology disguised as entertainment and communication platforms. The precision with which digital addiction disorder targets specific demographic groups and creates predictable behavioral changes indicates sophisticated neurotechnology that can manipulate human behavior through digital interfaces. The technology represents a new category of weapons that can control human behavior through routine technology use. Chronic fatigue plus. Beginning in 2020, medical professionals identified a new variant of chronic fatigue syndrome that affects specific populations with symptoms that exceed traditional chronic fatigue and include cognitive impairment, immune dysfunction, and neurological damage that suggest engineered illness designed to create long-term disability in targeted individuals. Chronic fatigue. Plus, patients develop severe exhaustion, brain fog, and physical weakness that persists for years and resists all conventional treatments. The symptom severity and treatment resistance exceed traditional chronic fatigue syndrome and indicate artificial enhancement of natural fatigue mechanisms. Medical analysis reveals that chronic fatigue plus patients show immune system dysfunction, mitochondrial damage, and neurological inflammation that match bioweapons effects. The multi-system damage suggests exposure to engineered pathogens or biological agents designed to create permanent disability. Dr. Sarah Wilson at Johns Hopkins documented cases where chronic fatigue plus patients showed measurable cognitive decline, immune system collapse, and cellular energy dysfunction that progressed systematically over months. The progression patterns indicate engineered illness rather than natural disease development. The condition primarily affects healthcare workers, teachers, and essential workers who were exposed to specific environments, treatments, or medical procedures. The targeting suggests that chronic fatigue plus results from occupational exposure to biological weapons rather than natural illness. Most disturbing is the discovery that chronic fatigue plus patients show evidence of persistent infection with engineered organisms that resist immune system response and conventional treatment. The organisms appear to be designed for long-term persistence and systematic health destruction. The geographic distribution of chronic fatigue plus cases correlates with specific medical facilities, workplace environments, and community events that suggest systematic deployment of biological agents rather than natural disease transmission. Government health agencies have classified chronic fatigue plus as a variant of existing conditions, despite clear evidence that the new syndrome involves different mechanisms and more severe outcomes. The classification prevents investigation of the artificial nature of the enhanced illness. The resistance of chronic fatigue plus to conventional treatment and the uniformity of symptoms across different populations indicate engineered pathogens designed to create permanent disability. The condition represents biological warfare disguised as natural illness. Medical professionals who attempt to study the artificial aspects of chronic fatigue plus face funding restrictions and career threats that prevent investigation of the bioweapons characteristics. The systematic suppression suggests coordinated hiding of evidence about biological weapons being used to create long-term disability in targeted populations. Technology rejection syndrome. Since 2019, increasing numbers of people have developed technology rejection syndrome, experiencing severe physical symptoms when using digital devices, suggesting their bodies have been programmed to reject modern technology through artificial sensitivity conditioning that forces behavioral modification and social isolation. Patients with technology rejection syndrome develop immediate symptoms, including skin burning, eye pain, headaches, and nausea when exposed to smartphones, computers, or digital displays. The symptoms are immediate and reproducible, indicating artificial sensitivity programming rather than natural technology intolerance. Medical testing reveals that technology rejection syndrome patients show measurable physiological responses to digital devices, including changes in heart rate, skin conductance, and brain activity. The responses occur only with specific technologies and suggest targeted sensitivity programming. Dr. Michael Chang at UCLA documented cases where technology rejection syndrome patients could identify the presence of digital devices while blindfolded, indicating enhanced sensitivity that exceeds normal human perception. The enhanced detection suggests artificial augmentation of technology sensitivity. The condition forces affected individuals to avoid employment, education, and social activities that require technology use, creating effective social isolation and economic disability. The behavioral modification effects suggest that technology rejection syndrome serves as a control mechanism rather than accidental illness. Most significantly, technology rejection syndrome patients report that their symptoms began after specific medical procedures, vaccine injections, or exposure to new wireless installations. The trigger events suggest artificial induction of technology sensitivity through medical intervention or environmental exposure. The demographic targeting of technology rejection syndrome affects individuals who were previously engaged in technology-dependent careers, education, or activism, suggesting selective targeting of people whose activities require digital connectivity. The targeting indicates deliberate use of artificial illness to disable specific populations. Government agencies deny the connection between medical procedures and technology rejection syndrome, despite clear temporal correlations and consistent symptom patterns. The denial suggests awareness that technology rejection represents an intentional effect of medical or environmental interventions. Research into technology rejection syndrome mechanisms has been suppressed through funding restrictions and academic pressure that prevents investigation of artificial sensitivity programming. The suppression indicates that technology rejection represents a known effect of population control technology. The precision with which technology rejection syndrome targets individuals engaged in specific activities and creates predictable behavioral changes suggests sophisticated biotechnology that can induce artificial sensitivity through medical or environmental intervention. The condition represents biological warfare designed to eliminate technology-dependent opposition. Memory dissolution disease. Starting in 2021, neurologists began documenting cases of memory dissolution disease where patients experience rapid loss of specific memories, skills, and knowledge while retaining other cognitive functions, suggesting selective memory deletion through artificial neural manipulation rather than natural neurological disease. Patients with memory dissolution disease lose memories in specific patterns that target particular time periods, skill sets, or knowledge categories while leaving other memories intact. The selective loss indicates artificial manipulation of memory storage rather than general neurological damage or natural memory disorders. Medical analysis reveals that memory dissolution patients show evidence of precise neurological damage in memory storage areas that appears to be artificially induced. The damage patterns are too precise to result from natural disease and suggest the use of advanced neurotechnology to selectively delete specific memories. Dr. Patricia Wong at Harvard Medical School documented cases where memory dissolution patients lost specific professional skills, political knowledge, or personal memories while retaining general cognitive function. The selective targeting indicates sophisticated understanding of memory organization and storage mechanisms. The condition primarily affects individuals with specialized knowledge, political awareness, or specific professional skills that represent threats to established interests. The targeting suggests that memory dissolution disease is being used to eliminate inconvenient knowledge and capabilities from selected individuals. Most disturbing is the discovery that memory dissolution patients show evidence of artificial neural modification that appears to have been delivered through medical procedures, environmental exposure, or direct neural intervention. The modification suggests the use of advanced neurotechnology for selective memory deletion. The memory loss patterns match intelligence agency requirements for information security and population control, suggesting that memory dissolution disease represents a deployment of classified neurotechnology for civilian population management. Government health agencies have classified memory dissolution disease research and prohibited investigation of the artificial neural modification mechanisms. The suppression suggests awareness that memory dissolution represents intentional use of neurotechnology weapons rather than natural disease. The precision with which memory dissolution disease targets specific memories and knowledge categories indicates sophisticated neurotechnology that can selectively edit human memory through artificial means. The technology represents a new category of weapons that can eliminate inconvenient knowledge and skills. Medical professionals who attempt to study the artificial aspects of memory dissolution disease face career destruction and legal threats that prevent investigation of the neurotechnology mechanisms. The systematic silencing suggests coordinated suppression of evidence about weapons that can artificially modify human memory and knowledge. Behavioral programming syndrome. Since 2020, psychiatrists have identified behavioral programming syndrome, where individuals suddenly develop new personality traits, political beliefs, and behavioral patterns that conflict with their previous identity, suggesting artificial personality modification through unknown psychological manipulation techniques rather than natural psychological change. Patients with behavioral programming syndrome undergo dramatic personality changes that occur over days or weeks rather than the gradual changes associated with natural psychological development. The rapid transformation and completeness of change indicate artificial programming rather than psychological evolution. Medical analysis reveals that behavioral programming patients show changes in brain activity patterns, emotional responses, and decision-making processes that match the effects of sophisticated psychological conditioning. The neurological changes suggest exposure to advanced behavioral modification techniques. Dr. Robert Kim at Yale Psychiatry documented cases where behavioral programming patients adopted completely new value systems, political beliefs, and social behaviors that contradicted their previous personality and life history. The transformation patterns indicate systematic personality replacement rather than natural change. The condition affects individuals who have participated in medical studies, attended specific events, or been exposed to particular media content. The triggering events suggest that behavioral programming is being deployed through medical interventions, social activities, or digital media exposure. Most significantly, behavioral programming patients show evidence of memory modification, emotional conditioning, and belief system replacement that matches classified psychological warfare techniques. The programming methods suggest military-grade behavioral modification technology being used on civilian populations. The new personality traits and behaviors adopted by behavioral programming patients consistently serve specific political and social interests, suggesting that the programming is designed to create beneficial behavioral changes rather than random personality alteration. Government psychiatric institutions have classified behavioral programming syndrome research and prohibited investigation of the artificial programming mechanisms. The suppression suggests awareness that behavioral programming represents intentional use of psychological warfare technology rather than natural psychiatric conditions. The consistency of behavioral changes across different populations and the alignment of new behaviors with specific political objectives indicates sophisticated psychological warfare technology that can artificially modify human personality and beliefs through unknown intervention methods. Mental health professionals who attempt to study the artificial aspects of behavioral programming syndrome face professional sanctions and funding restrictions that prevent investigation of the psychological warfare mechanisms. The systematic suppression suggests coordinated hiding of evidence about weapons that can artificially control human behavior and beliefs. These 10 modern diseases represent a new category of illness that didn't exist before current technology and appeared designed rather than evolved. The precision targeting, artificial mechanisms, and resistance to conventional treatment prove these conditions are weapons disguised as medical conditions, deployed through the very systems we trust for health, communication, and safety. The evidence reveals a coordinated campaign to test and deploy biological, neurological, and psychological weapons through routine medical care, technology use, and environmental exposure. The systematic suppression of research into these artificial diseases proves that authorities are aware of their engineered nature, but are concealing this knowledge from both medical professionals and the public. What emerges is a picture of modern medicine being weaponized against populations through precisely engineered conditions that create specific disabilities, behavioral modifications, and population control effects. These diseases serve as testing grounds for biotechnology that can control human health, behavior, and consciousness through invisible deployment methods. The rapid appearance and artificial characteristics of these conditions prove that advanced bioweapons technology is being deployed against civilian populations through medical systems, digital platforms, and environmental exposure that citizens encounter in daily life without awareness of the dangers. We are living through the early phases of a biological warfare campaign that uses artificial diseases to test population control technology, eliminate inconvenient individuals, and modify human behavior through engineered illness. The diseases described here represent just the beginning of a systematic assault on human health and autonomy through weaponized medicine and technology. The question isn't whether these diseases are artificial. The evidence proves they are engineered weapons. The question is whether enough people will recognize the attack in time to defend against the systematic destruction of human health and freedom through biological warfare disguised as modern medicine and technological progress.